Among the old fairy tales of Germany, few are stranger or more memorable than Rumpelstiltskin, a tale of pride, fear, gold, and a promise made in desperation. Before we go on, if you enjoy stories like this from around the world, please like and subscribe for new stories daily. Long ago, in a small village beside a turning mill wheel, there lived a poor miller and his daughter. The daughter was kind, clever, and hard-working, but she possessed no magic at all. Her father, however, loved to talk grandly whenever he wished to impress others. One day, eager to seem important before the king's servants, he boasted that his daughter could spin straw into gold. It was a foolish lie, tossed into the air for vanity's sake. But lies spoken before power have a way of becoming traps. Word of the claim soon reached the king, and what had begun as empty pride became the beginning of a long and dangerous night. The king was not a man who laughed off rumours of riches. He was greedy, proud, and always eager for more treasure. When he heard that a miller's daughter could spin straw into gold, he ordered that she be brought to the castle at once. The poor girl was led through great stone halls and into a chamber piled high with dry yellow straw. There, against the wall, stood a spinning wheel and a single candle throwing long shadows across the floor. The king looked at her with cold expectation. He told her that by morning every bundle of straw in the room must be spun into shining gold. If she succeeded, her life would be spared. If she failed, she would die. Then he locked the door and left her alone in the silent room. The daughter stared at the straw, trembling. She had never claimed such a thing. She could not spin gold, and now her father's empty pride had placed her life in the hands of fear. As the hours deepened and the candle burned low, the girl began to weep. No cleverness could save her, and no one came to help. Then, from the darkest corner of the chamber, a tiny voice asked why she was crying. Before her stood a strange little man, no taller than a child, dressed in worn green, with quick bright eyes and a face that seemed made for secrets. He told her that he could spin the straw into gold if she would give him something in return. The frightened girl had nothing of value except the necklace at her throat, a simple trinket she had worn for years. In terror she handed it over. At once the little man sat at the wheel. His fingers moved swiftly, and before the night was done the room that had been filled with straw was piled instead with glittering golden thread. When morning came, the king stared in wonder, but wonder quickly turned into hunger. If one room could become gold, he thought, then surely another, larger one could as well. The king led her next into a larger chamber, heaped even higher with straw. Once again he told her that by morning it must all be gold. Once again he locked the door behind him. The girl, now more frightened than before, knew what would happen. When the little man appeared from the shadows for a second time, his smile was sharper. He asked what she would give him now. The daughter no longer had her necklace. All she could offer was the ring from her hand, the last little thing that belonged to her alone. He accepted it at once. Through the long night the wheel hummed and flashed. Straw vanished. Gold appeared bright as sunrise. When dawn broke, the king found the chamber full of treasure, and his greed burned hotter than ever. He no longer thought only of gold. He saw the miller's daughter herself as a path to endless wealth, and he began to imagine how such magic might be tied forever to his own crown. For the third time the king tested her, and this room was the largest of all. It seemed impossible that even the whole night could change so much straw into gold. The girl fell to her knees and wept bitterly, for she had nothing left to trade. When the little man appeared again, she begged him for help. This time he asked for a promise instead of a jewel. If she became queen, he said, she must give him her first child. The daughter recoiled in horror, yet the room was locked. The king's threat still hung over her, and death felt very near. Desperate people sometimes agree to things their hearts cannot bear. At last, with trembling lips, she gave her word. The little man spun all night long, faster and faster, until every stalk of straw had become gold. In the morning the king was delighted. True to his greedy nature, he married the miller's daughter, not out of love, but because he thought fortune itself had entered his palace. Time passed, and the miller's daughter became queen indeed. She wore fine gowns, sat beneath painted ceilings, and lived among gold and velvet. Yet all the palace splendour could not erase the memory of the promise she had made in terror. At last a child was born to her, a beautiful baby whom she loved with all her heart. For a little while she almost believed the past had dissolved like smoke. But one night, when the nursery glowed with lamplight and all seemed peaceful, the little man returned. He stepped from the shadows as though he had never truly left. Calmly he told the queen that he had come to collect what she had promised. She pleaded with him, offering all the gold in the kingdom, jewels from the royal vaults, anything at all if only he would spare her child. But he only laughed. Treasure meant nothing to one who had bargained for something far more precious. For the first time since becoming queen, she understood just how terrible desperation can become when it ripens into consequence. The queen wept, and begged so bitterly that at last the little man offered her a narrow path to escape. He told her that if, within 3 days, she could discover his true name, he would give up his claim to the child forever. Then he vanished, leaving the queen with equal parts hope and dread. At once she sent messengers riding in every direction across the kingdom. They went to villages, forests, farms, and market towns, gathering every strange and uncommon name they heard. That evening, when the little man returned, the queen tried one name after another. Was he Conrad? Was he Halbert? Was he Balthazar? Each guess only made him grin wider. On the second day her servants brought back still more names, and again she tried them all. None was right. The hours passed quickly, and by the end of the second night the queen's heart felt no lighter. She had one day left, and desperation had returned to the palace like a storm pressing against the windows. On the third day, when hope was nearly gone, one of the queen's messengers returned from deep in the forest with an odd report. He had come upon a tiny hut hidden among the trees, and before it burned a fire. Around that fire danced a little man, hopping on one leg and singing a strange, mocking song. In it he boasted that no one in the world knew his name, and he sang it aloud in triumph. The messenger hurried back at once and whispered the tale to the queen. That night Rumpelstiltskin came once more, certain that victory was already his. The queen let him smile and preen. She guessed a few false names first, just to watch his impatience grow. Then she asked him, almost lightly, whether by chance his name might be Rumpelstiltskin. In that instant his face changed. The triumph vanished from him like a snuffed candle. He stared at her in fury, stunned that his secret had been uncovered. Rumpelstiltskin's fury was terrible to behold. He stamped so hard that the floor trembled beneath him. He screamed that the devil must have told her, for he could not imagine that his own vanity had betrayed him. In some old tellings he tore himself apart in rage, and in others he vanished into the dark with a howl of defeat. However the moment is imagined, the meaning remains the same. The power he had carried was broken the instant his secret was known. The queen gathered her child into her arms, overwhelmed with relief so great it almost felt like weakness. The nursery, which had been a place of dread for 3 nights, became warm again. No bargain, however desperate, held power over her now. And yet even in safety, she could not forget how near she had come to losing everything because of a boast that had never been true in the first place. When the danger had passed, the queen began at last to reckon honestly with all that had happened. Her father had boasted to win admiration. The king had threatened her life out of greed. And she herself, cornered by fear, had made promises she never truly wished to keep. In the strange path of fairy tales, each of those choices carried a cost. Gold had filled the castle, but it had not brought peace. Titles and rich chambers had not erased terror. Only truth, finally spoken and discovered, had undone the knot. The queen resolved that her child would not be raised among empty boasts or hungry greed. She would teach that words matter, that desperation can tempt the heart into dark agreements, and that secrets often destroy the one who clings to them most tightly. In this way, what had begun as a story of lies and bargains slowly became a quieter story, one in which hard lessons might yet grow into wisdom. Fairy tales seldom end by simply saying that danger is over. They linger instead on what the danger revealed. In Rumpelstiltskin, the golden thread is not the true marvel. The true marvel is how truth, once found, can unravel fear. The king's greed, the miller's pride, and the little man's secretive cunning each seemed powerful for a time. Yet none proved stronger than a name spoken plainly at the right moment. That is part of why the story endures. It reminds us that those who demand too much often hide behind mystery, and that mystery loses its hold once brought into the light. The queen had been frightened, powerless, and nearly trapped forever, but in the end she was saved not by treasure or strength, but by knowledge and patience. Even in a dark tale like this one, that is a hopeful thing. What seems impossible can change the instant we finally understand what we are facing. And so the tale of Rumpelstiltskin has been told for generations, not merely as a story of a strange little man, but as a warning wrapped in wonder. Pride can create danger where none existed before. Greed can turn another person's fear into an opportunity. And in our most desperate moments we must be careful what promises we make, because words spoken under pressure do not simply disappear with the night. Yet the story also leaves us with something steadier. Names matter. Truth matters. A hidden thing is not invincible simply because it is secret. So if this old German tale leaves any final thought behind, it may be this: what is twisted by fear can still be set right by patience, honesty, and courage. Let the spinning wheel grow still now. Let the gold fall quiet, and carry with you the hope that no dark bargain can endure forever once its true shape is brought into the light.